Welcome to another HoloNet News episode from the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. My name is Adam, and today is November the 4th, 2025, and today's Star Wars news discussion will include Star Wars is about to ruin its best show, Star Wars finally addresses the weirdest thing about Darth Vader, Star Wars Japan seems to say the Mandalorian and Grogu will be a story of love and loss, and it's worrying fans. And then we're going to take a look at the Star Wars newsfeed and see if there's anything of interest there. All right, so let's dive into it. Okay. First and foremost, Star Wars is about to ruin its best show. This is from Giant Freaking Robot. And let's go through it. While Star Wars has had some high-profile failures ranging from the sequel trilogy to The Acolyte, there has been one really bright spot. Ahsoka. I mean, there's a lot of nonsensical choices. Narratively, character choices, dialogue in Ahsoka. So I don't know if we would call it a really high spot. The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 was the high spot until Andor came around. And then Andor season 1 and 2 became the high spot. Ahsoka is down there underneath all of those, and maybe even after Mandalorian season 3. Because while it's visually beautiful and compelling, and the story beats are interesting, the choices just are ridiculous in some cases. And you can watch our reviews of the first season to really get a breakdown of why they were nonsensical and ridiculous. But there was a lot of promise with this season. So, the show that brought Grand Admiral Thrawn and several of our favorite Rebels characters to live action. Fans have been wanting to know when we'll get to see more. But a recent Forbes report offered the sobering truth that we likely won't see Ahsoka Season 2 until August of 2026. Wow. That would mean a whopping 3-year delay between seasons, which will kill the momentum of Star Wars' biggest show right when the franchise really desperately needs a win. Now look, again, we just had Andor, which was a huge, amazing series. And Star Wars fans collectively adored it. And then, of course, Star Wars Visions is out there. Now, I'm not reviewing or watching the new Star Wars Visions because I'm sort of on a ban of Disney because of their political decisions. But Season 1 and Season 2 of Star Wars Visions was amazing. And I can only imagine that Season 3 is the same. And as soon as Disney stops being shit asses, I will return, watch it, and review it. And I'll be looking forward to it when that happens, if it ever actually happens. But there's truth to this. A show needs to have regular releases to maintain its momentum. We saw this with, you can see this with any show, but Game of Thrones is a great example. House of the Dragon is a great example. Dune prequel series is a great example. If you have too large of a gap between seasons, then the excitement, the fan fervor, just the desire to continue watching it starts to wane, and you just sort of lose. You have to rewatch it. I mean, Stranger Things is a perfect example of this. When are we getting it? I don't know. Sometime at the end of this year, which is rapidly approaching. Am I super excited and dying to see it? Not really, because quite frankly, the last season was amazing in my opinion. And this season, who knows? And if I don't know, and it's not coming for a while, then my excitement levels dropped underneath the floor at this point. And when it comes around, sure, I'll probably watch it, but I probably won't be as into it as I would have if it came within a year of its original release. And that's what you really have to think of when you think of these series coming in patterns and regular intervals. We as viewers have a lot to watch. We have a lot of choices available to us. And if you don't give us a good reason to watch your particular series, well, then we probably won't. And Look, Star Wars has been shit in the bed for a long time. There's no reason for it to be. It's just choices that are being made by the powers that be. So this is one of those choices. Forbes didn't exactly have clairvoyance on the Force when making this pronouncement. Instead, they just extrapolated from the fact that Ahsoka recently wrapped filming in its second season, season 1 finishing filming in October 22 and aired August 2023. Now, season 2 finished filming at the end of October 2025, so if history repeats itself, we likely won't be able to stream it on Disney Plus until August of 2026 at the earliest. Hey Chris, how you doing, man? Yeah, I love it. I mean, I really enjoy Stranger Things personally. But again, the gap between season kills the momentum. So Disney is making the same mistake Netflix did. The publication rightfully sounded an alarm about having a 3-year gap between seasons, pointing out that fans had their knives out when Netflix waited nearly this long to deliver Wednesday season 2. It was awkward watching how much older these youthful characters, who are all meant to be high schoolers, has become. And making fans wait this long seems even stranger when you consider that Netflix wants to leverage the success of Wednesday into an Uncle Fester spin-off show. But an even longer wait for Ahsoka Season 2 could be the kiss of death of Star Wars, a franchise deeply, desperately in need of a successful TV show. Since the disastrous Rise of Skywalker, there's been no Star Wars movies. And even though we got 2 on deck, The Mandalorian and Grogu and Starfighter, there are countless canceled Star Wars films fans are hyped about, including Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie. Recently, fans were outraged to discover that Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh had a completed Lucasfilm-approved The Hunt for Ben Solo script that Disney flatly rejected. Collectively, these cinematic failures and canceled film projects have placed added pressure on Star Wars television shows to keep fans happy. Why fans loved Ahsoka so much? Unfortunately, the Star Wars shows have been a mixed bag. The Mandalorian was a breakout hit that got worse over time, while seemingly surefire shows like The Book of Boba Fett were mostly panned, for good reason. The Acolyte tried to do something completely new by setting the show in a far past, but fans complained that it didn't really feel like Star Wars. Whoa, 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 whoa. That is not why fans complained about The Acolyte. The Acolyte suffered from very bad writing and very bad acting. Those two things, coupled with astronomical budgets and a creator of the show that didn't know fuck all about Star Wars. Those are the reasons that show sucked and fans complained. You have to at least address honestly the shows in order to fully extrapolate and contextualize why Star Wars is shitting the bed. If you don't do that, then you're just sort of guessing like, oh, they don't like girls, I guess. Which is not the fucking case, you turds. The initial character of Ahsoka was great, but it worked better and she was disenfranchised by the Jedi Order and left, which is why Yoda is unaware of her doing the original trilogy. And I'm okay with that. I think I actually really enjoyed the character. I mean, the initial outing was a little annoying in the Clone Wars film and then, of course, the early seasons, but she grew into a fantastic character. It's just the live action show and the choices that the characters make that and the situations that just don't live up to the earlier iterations of the character and definitely don't live up to the expectations of what a live action show should be delivering. With Ahsoka coming back and acting like a Jedi, her canon character isn't as interesting to you and breaks the original canon. Yeah, I mean, we really thought that she was going to be like a gray Jedi or something, you know, just sort of like doing her own Force thing. And that's something that has been done in Star Wars from the beginning. Like, you don't have to be a Jedi to wield Force powers. You could be an ex-Jedi who is still on a path of what you perceive as good to try to be the best version of you that you are without conforming to the dogma of a religion, basically. And ultimately, she ended up going back to it for some insane reason, which makes no narrative sense when you really think about it. It was the Jedi that allowed the Sith to rise. It was the Sith that destroyed the Jedi. The dichotomy between the two is clearly poison and is the driving momentum force into the EU. I mean, you just don't need Ahsoka to be a part of that, especially when she actively, as you said, Chris, walked away. Why would she just do a 180? I didn't feel satisfied in the show's portrayal in Rebels why she came back, and I certainly, which I loved, and I certainly don't think this live action show Ahsoka is doing her any justice for the reasons of why she is suddenly now a Jedi. And then you just throw in nostalgia bait with Anakin, Hayden Christensen, and it's awesome, but it seems like it's a shortcut. You're just trying to pull in fans to watch something that they really don't want to because you just haven't given them a good reason to. And now you're throwing in World Between Worlds and time travel, and it's going to get really muddy, and casual fans aren't going to understand it. You have to have watched the end season of Rebels in order to understand what the hell the World Between Worlds is. And if you didn't watch it, you have no idea what this is because it's never been presented in Star Wars before. It's just this confusing time travel device, which is literally what it is. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan Kenobi played it safe, delivering a generally crowd-pleasing performance that was nonetheless completely superfluous to franchise canon. It was superfluous. The Obi-Wan Kenobi parts of it I thought were pretty good. The not the Night Sisters, the oh my gosh, why can't I think of their names? Reva, the Dark Jedi people. I don't really think they pulled that off very well. It works good in video games. In live action, it seemed like a bunch of shit-assery, is all I'm saying. A lot of The Office US series parkour going on. All right, Ahsoka functioned as the best of both worlds by celebrating fan favorite Star Wars characters like Ahsoka, Thrawn, and Ezra, who also introduced cool new characters like a maniac Sithy dream girl, which I loved, and her disgruntled ex-Jedi mentor, which I loved. And situations like an Imperial tactical genius returning to sow chaos into the New Republic's carefully crafted order, which I'm really looking forward to see how they fold Thrawn in to the canon again. It was a genuinely fun show anchored by some excellent performances, and it's the series I was most excited to see return for season 2. For me and for countless other fans, however, the excitement was largely faded due to the incredible long wait between seasons. That's the reality that you have to face. The damage to Star Wars is already done. If Forbes is correct, then we can expect to have 4 new Star Wars shows and a major motion picture between Ahsoka Season 1 and Season 2. At this point, the franchise can't win. If everyone loves these shows and films, then Ahsoka will become far less buzzworthy. After all, it was yesterday's news years ago. If the shows and movies end up bombing, though, it will further hurt the franchise's brand, making it harder for the average fan to justify tuning into Disney Plus for another round of phoned-in slop. And that's a brutal reality, especially in a terrible economy where we are right now, and Disney doubling its monthly subscription price. There's no reason to subscribe to Disney Plus if they're only putting out shit series. Full stop. There's no reason. And if there's only 1 or 2 good series, which only come in a month at a time, years apart, well, then why the hell would anyone subscribe to it at all? It doesn't make any sense. If you just want to throw money away, then that's your right. There's always hope that Disney will release Ahsoka's second season sooner, but the damage has already been done. If they release it today, having more than 2 years between seasons would be more than enough to ruin even the best TV shows, destroying any real excitement for Ahsoka, arguably the franchise's best series, not at all, is arguably the best way to kill Star Wars altogether. While democracy might have died in the galaxy far, far away with thunderous applause, this franchise is about to die a different way, with the thunderous noise of fans hitting the home button looking for something better to watch. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's rough, it's brutal, but it's pretty true. Ahsoka has an uphill battle because of the decisions that Disney made. It's that simple. Why would you not immediately go into the next season if it's greenlit and start filming it immediately while the show is still running the first season? Why would you not do that? That way you can have it bam, 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 year after year. Fans are constantly subscribing. Fans are constantly turning in. Fans are constantly enjoying. But instead, waiting 3 years? That's insane. There's no reason for it. All right. Let's see. How do you feel about the push to paint the Jedi as evil? I personally preferred when they were overly restrictive, but a good organization, Guardians of Peace and Justice in the Galaxy. I only think they were presented as evil in that terrible Acolyte series. And it was because all of them were the evil ones. And so they obviously, from their perspective, see the good guys as bad guys if they see themselves as the good guys. So I don't think they were painted as evil at all. I think it was just the show's perspective flip-flop because it was focused on bad guys. I really think that was all it was. I don't see, I mean, the Jedi were short-sighted. In the prequels, just straight up pointed that out. That's how Sidious, their hubris got the best of them. And that's why. In Last Jedi, I just don't even like to address that because it was just hot garbage. And so in my canon, I'm Legends, what's now considered Legends, and used to be considered called EU canon, extended universe. In that version, they are the Guardians of Peace and Justice in the Galaxy. And they've done bad things, and they've had characters go to the dark side throughout all eras. But that's just the reality of temptation of the dark side. And even when the Jedi are ostracized, like Luke Skywalker was in the New Republic era, and he was literally forced away from the New Republic, he was still a good guy doing good things across the galaxy, hunting down Sith with his son, Ben. And it was great. It was just great. I don't know why they're changing things up and twisting it all in knots and stuff. I agree. It all it does is make fans question the logic and not really get what they're trying to do, which ultimately hurts the brand. But clearly the powers that be in Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and Disney don't understand it, which is shocking because you have Filoni who should understand it. And clearly there's aspects that he does understand, but whenever he tries to extrapolate out on what George already did, he shits the bed over and over and over again. And for me, I'm just done with that type of nonsense. I would rather focus on the storylines that make logical sense, that are fun to explore. But that's just me. All right, the next story. 20 years later, Star Wars finally addresses the weirdest thing about Darth Vader. You can't always get what you want, especially if you're a Sith Lord. When Anakin Skywalker sealed the deal to become a Dark Lord of the Sith, he did it with the caveat that Emperor Palpatine would help him save Padme's life. And to do this, Palpatine promised that he and Anakin would work together to discover the secret. But, Palpatine implied, that would all come later, because in the short term, there was a ton of housekeeping to attend to. Namely, slaughtering all the Jedi, destroying democracy, and building the Empire. You know, the real work you have to do in order to rule. And so Darth Vader's one condition of joining the dark side to prevent Padme's demise and maybe bring her back to life was Palpatine's ultimate bait and switch. Basically, Anakin took a job that promised him some health benefits for his dependents that extended beyond the grave. That's a great way of framing it. Then, when those benefits didn't materialize, he took the job anyway. But why? Or, more to the point, did Darth Vader ever try to ask Palpatine to deliver on his Sithy promise? And did anyone in the Empire really understand that Vader was once Anakin? The answer to those questions, coming 2 decades after the release of Revenge of the Sith, can be found in the new Star Wars novel by Adam Christopher, Master of Evil. Now look, I just went through this diatribe about how I prefer to focus on the stories that I love, the extended universe, what's now considered Star Wars Legends. However, there are some good Disney-era novels. The Aftermath novels were great, and standalone novels here and there are not bad at all. I am looking forward to this. And I'm probably going to do it through the library so I don't have to pay any money for it just in case it's not good. But if I can get Cameron to read it as well, we'll do a full review of it on this channel. But I love that idea because, yeah, the only reason why he joined the dark side was so that he could save Padme's life. And when he realized he killed her, it wasn't like, oh, harumph. Okay, well, let's just go kill everyone else then. No, Anakin's still in there. He still wants those answers. He's still seeking out. And he's even, when he finds his son, trying to overthrow the Emperor with his son by his side. So he's clearly not goose-stepping along with Palpatine or Darth Sidious, right? And so, yeah, let's explore that. What does that mean? What does that look like? I mean, Charles Soule's Darth Vader comic series was brilliant, genuinely good, and that was the Disney era. So they can tell good stories. It just seems like they choose not to most of the time, which is why fans are so infuriated. Did we team up on a novel and you forget about it? That would be so awesome. Like the abusive boss that he is, Palpatine uses Force Lightning on Darth Vader in the opening chapters simply because Vader asked the basic question of when he's going to get the fabled bringing people back to life spell from Palpatine. As he says in the book, "It is what you promised." Vader has a point, but Palpatine is more concerned with the anonymity of the Sith rather than, say, actually teaming up with Vader to make dark side magic. I would say the anonymity of the Sith has kind of flown the coop by the time Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader. The Jedi that survived, no. There's no anonymity. They know that you're the Sith master. They know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. Like, they know. So what's the anonymity aspect of this? Let's see. Actually teaming up with Vader to make dark side magic. Instead, after shocking Vader into submission, Palpatine points out that Vader's old identity is a liability and then sends Vader to the Disso. The Disco system might be a little bit better. The Disso system to find a Force user who might be a resurrectionist. Thus, Master of Evil is basically about two things. Vader's quest to locate this resurrectionist who may or may not have the secret Palpatine promised, and at the same time, it's the story of an Imperial Guard named Goth, who, along with his droid TC-99, is trying to crack the case about Vader's true identity. I don't understand how it's a secret. Literally, the Jedi know. Like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Even, what's his name? The guy who took in Leia. Oh, gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. In any case, he knew as well, because he was talking with Obi-Wan, and he was talking with, he wasn't talking with Yoda after Yoda left Coruscant, but up until that point, they were in communication, so they should have said, hey, you know that whole Anakin thing? Woof. Yeah, he's, Bail Organa, thank you, Chris. He's kind of Vader. I just feel like they would know. The subtext of Master of Evil also dances around a somewhat familiar Star Wars trope. Information is siloed in so many ways that manipulating the facts is easy for those in power. But it also means it's paradoxically hard to know anything for sure, even if you are the Emperor or Lord Vader. And I think no storyline told that story better than Andor, with the burgeoning rebellion and all of the different factions that are supposedly on the same side, unable to trust each other. It was great. Case in point, Palpatine sends Vader on a mission to try to find the Force shaman because even Palpatine doesn't know for sure. Meanwhile, through the first half of the book, TC-99 tries to track down raw data fragments about Vader's transformation, which results in finding some half-fried hard drives of mechanical droids who performed Anakin's surgery in Revenge of the Sith. In short, the science fiction aspect of Data in Star Wars is that, even at the height of the Empire's power, Data is extremely analog. Relative to Star Wars lore, this is how it should be. Though it's a paperless galaxy, the digital files in Star Wars, whether they're hologram footage of Vader's surgery or details about how to bring people back to life with the dark side, aren't available in the cloud for anyone to Google. Recall in Attack of the Clones just how easy it was for Count Dooku to erase a star system from the Jedi Library archive, a process which might sound outrageous, but relative to actual processes from storing star chart data today, isn't actually that nuts. The larger point here is that Master of Evil is about the pursuit of information as much as it's about trying to nail down certain deep-cut abilities of the dark side of the Force. One could argue that if the Star Wars galaxies were less analog and did have a more robust cloud-based data system, it might be more democratic. Oh yeah, because, like America, which has a wonderfully robust cloud-based data system, we are the pinnacle of democracy, right? He says, tongue firmly planted in cheek. But the cool thing about Master of Evil is that if you think about the problems as a metaphor, it's essentially the same problems we face today. Corrupt leaders, even if they're elected officials like Palpatine was initially, can move information around mostly because the vast majority of people are deeply uncurious. Yeah, you could not say a line more true than that. The reason why Anakin even discovered Palpatine's whole deal in Revenge of the Sith is that Anakin is a curious person. Ditto Goth and TC-99 in Master of Evil, they question the status quo, and interesting stories happen as a result. In the prequels, despite their supposed wisdom, the Jedi were blind to the presence of the Sith because the dark side clouds everything. Mace Windu pointed out that the Jedi's ability to use the Force has diminished, but the other thing we saw in the prequels was the Jedi asking fewer and fewer questions and making more and more assumptions. The plot of Master of Evil is about Sith powers, Vader's tragic soul, and some Imperial folks who are curious about the truth. But the story and theme of the book are a kind of inversion of what you might think a dark side-focused Star Wars tale might be. Turns out, the power of the Force is insignificant next to a good fact-finding mission. Master of Evil will be published by Penguin Random House Books on November 11. The audiobook, which features sound effects and a full musical score, will also be available on that date on Audible and Spotify. I can't decide whether I want to do, because I still have credits on Audible, if I still want to do the Audible or actually physically read it now that I have time to sit down and really consume it. I think I might do the physical. Yeah. Anyway, this has made me really want to read this book, and it sounds wildly interesting. And then just the ridiculous side of all of this, the artwork looks awesome. Look, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but we all do. And this is beautiful. This is a beautiful piece of art, and I've got to find out who the artist is so that I can give them a shout out. You always felt that once Anakin needed the suit and machinery, he was so focused on revenge and hate. Plus, Palpatine said prevent people from dying, nothing about bringing them back. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But in the new era of Star Wars, Vader has always been about trying to bring Padme back. There was a whole video game, what do they call it? The virtual reality video game series that was based around that, which is where Vader's castle comes from when he goes back to the planet where he got burned on. I'm sorry, my mind is like mush right now as I'm trying to get the names of all these places back in my head. I'm so focused on Dawn of the Jedi right now that the old school Star Wars stuff is like fleeting. And so if Vader could bring back Padme, Mustafar, thank you, Chris. I 100% think he would. Like, absolutely, without even a second thought. And maybe not later in his career, but early on, when his passions are still high for her, I think he would have definitely tried. And that's what those virtual reality video games were focused on. Him going to Mustafar, finding out about how to try to bring back life. And it's why Mustafar was changed when Ben Solo, as Kylo Ren, went to Mustafar and tried to find some secret information about it, which ultimately led him to Exegol. But I think it's fascinating exploring the complex psychology of Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, because he went through so much compared to nearly anyone else. And he went through so many dramatic changes based on his passions that while the dark side was fully consuming him, there was still good in him. There was still hope in him. There was still possibility. Luke Skywalker pulled it out of him, his son. And I love that about the character. I mean, I absolutely love the lore of Darth Vader and his connection with Padme and his connection with Luke Skywalker particularly. It's just beautiful. And to continue to explore that psychology in a novel, I think could be very, very good. You're right about the original canon, though, and whether or not, he's looking to bring her back from the dead or not. It was very much just keep her alive and save her. That's what it was. All right, let's go to the next one. Star Wars Japan seems to say that The Mandalorian and Grogu will be a story of love and loss, and it's worrying fans. The film is headed to theaters next year. All right, Star Wars fans can't wait to see The Mandalorian and Grogu on the big screen. They got a little bit of a typo error there. I don't know. I'm not really chomping at the bit, to be 100% honest. Like, I'll watch it, but I'm not dying. But a recent description of the upcoming film has left some slightly worried. Starring Pedro Pascal and his little companion Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, the film sees the characters making the jump from the small screen when they debuted back in 2019. We know the plot will see the pair offering to help to protect the New Republic and everything the rebellion fought for after the fall of the Empire, but what kind of surprises is the beloved franchise hiding with that brief synopsis? A post shared by Star Wars Japan, which celebrates that there are only 200 days left until the film's release, described the film as a new story of love and loss. And now fans want to know what exactly that means for the story and its main characters. Okay, what's the love and loss that they speak of, replied one fan on Twitter, while others quickly jumped to some conclusions. Well, I think it's safe to say the loss isn't Din, as he'll be part of Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie, but this is definitely interesting. Maybe Thrawn finishes what Gideon failed to do and wipes out Mandalore. That would explain the absence in the sequels. By Bo, the armor, and the rest, the loss of a planet, a people, and culture, leaving Grogu and Din to rebuild, possibly elsewhere like Peridea, offered another fan. Directed by Jon Favreau, the film stars Pedro Pascal as the legendary Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin, alongside Sigourney Weaver and Jeremy Allen White. The Bear star plays Rhoda the Hutt, who might have a bigger role than we thought. We got the first look at the son of Jabba in the first trailer of The Mandalorian and Grogu, and the actor recently offered some details about his character and the plot of the movie. It's kind of like him and the Mandalorian running around for a lot of the movie together, White said at the Graham Norton show, while promoting his new film, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. The Mandalorian and Grogu arrives May 22nd, 2026. Until then, keep up to date with everything else, the galaxy far, far away. All right, so this is the original thing here. Star Wars Japan celebrates 200 days until The Mandalorian and Grogu. Their caption reads, "A new story of love and loss set in a galaxy far, far away. A long time ago opens on the big screen." What was so fascinating about Din Djarin's exploration for me in The Mandalorian was his loss of his original family and his adoption by the Mandalorians and his further unraveling of what Mandalorian culture is and the resurrection of the Mandalorian people after Revenge of the Sith and their culture, keeping it alive and unifying them all under Bo-Katan. I think that's fascinating. And I don't think that that's what they're going to be referring to as loss. If the majority of the show is Rhoda the Hutt and the Mandalorian going together, I think the loss is Grogu. He is being taken or abducted or somehow absconded away from the Mandalorian. And the Mandalorian is probably imprisoned as well, and that's how they're originally separated. That's how Rhoda the Hutt meets the Mandalorian in the Huttese gladiator pits, as it were, and then they go looking for Grogu. I honestly think that's what the loss is all about. And the love that then reunites them at the end and his drive to find Grogu. That's a much more interesting plot to me than the Mandalorian culture dying out again when they just started to get back together. Like, what's the point? And you're going to need the Mandalorian culture together so they can face off against Thrawn. That's the whole point. So I think this is much ado about nothing when it comes to sort of salacious, clickbaity headlines like this. But I think what it does more than anything else is reveal the actual plot of the film rather than forecasting someone's death or loss. What do you guys think? You got to let me know in the comments. No matter who dies, the adorable Jawas will feast upon their hearts. That's dark, man. That is dark. Let me know what you think about the Mandalorian and Grogu and what this loss is. And do you have any thoughts about the actual premise of the film? What the plot is of the film? Let me know in the comments. All right, before we head out of here, let's take a look at Star Wars news. And we've seen a lot of this already, but you know what? Halloween just happened last week, so I want to look at the creepiest Star Wars creatures with you. So let's do that. This Halloween season, StarWars.com pays tribute to our favorite galactic monstrosities. Look at that terrifying spider. Blah, 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 blah. The Star Wars galaxy is home to a vast range of creatures, many of which are very cute. But for every Porg, there's an Acklay, and for every Tauntaun, there's a Wampa. It's officially scary season, but there's no better way to ring in these terrifying times than with a list of creepy creatures that occupy every dark corner of the galaxy. Before we get started, let's give an honorable mention to Borgullet, who does not make the list. Truth is, we're still not sure what exactly it is. Also, while terrifying, its name is too fun to say. Borgullet. All right, number 1, Umbra Moth. There's nothing like a nice, peaceful walk through the forest, but pulsating masses that gestate rapidly into a large, attracted killer moths are one of the quickest way to ruin an otherwise pleasant hike. Such is the case with the Umbra Moth, which we first met in Episode 4 of The Acolyte. Day, when our team of Jedi head out to search for Mayho and Isaiah, common wisdom says to turn the lights on when things get a little spooky, but unfortunately, when the Umbra Moth, that is not the best solution. They were pretty cool looking. They were pretty awesome. Ogdo-Bogdo. Ogdo-Bogdo. The Ogdo-Bogdo is another creature which almost didn't make the list because its fun-to-say name undercuts its menace. The three-eyed giant frog with alligator skin and teeth showcases its formidable nature to all who wield a controller for a run of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Acting as boss monster and an upgraded version of the regular Ogdo, the Ogdo-Bogdo is known for its steep challenge it poses early in the game, usually taking many attempts to defeat. Don't get us started on the spawn of Ogdo, an even tougher variant found in the sequel. I haven't played the sequel yet. I hope to do it soon. Bilge Rat. Okay, let's make one thing clear. Cute and creepy are not mutually exclusive. While adorable in its own right, the Bilge Rat, Snowball, we see in Skeleton Crew does give us quite the scare by jumping out of SM-33's eye socket when we first meet him. Again, while it warms our hearts to see Neil feeding the little guy porridge, the rodent's 4 bulging red eyes are still the stuff of nightmares. I totally disagree. I don't think that's scary at all. Huh. Okay. Gorlectopod. Here's the thing about the Gorlectopod, the Gorman spider from Andor Season 2. It is, strictly speaking, 99% just a regular spider, but arachnophobia is one of the most common fears in the world for a reason, and the only thing scarier than a fantasy space spider is a real one. Okay, that's fun. The Yavinian Doodar. The Yavinian Doodar earns a spot in this list by highlighting a real dread running through the early years of the rebellion, disorganization. As featured in the first arc of the Andor Season 2, we see the Yavinian Doodar wreak havoc on the ill-fated Mayapay Brigade, a rebel cell that finds itself divided after apparent death of their leader. The Doodar is a sort of reptilian warthog hippo, capable of thunderous roars and the ability to devour unsuspecting rebels stranded in the jungle. They serve as a literal physical representation of the dangers of squandering opportunities for collaboration. Exogorth Space Slug. Sometimes a cave is not a cave. Popularly known as a space slug, the Exogorth carries the rare ability to swallow starships whole. The Millennium Falcon crew mistakenly flies into an Exogorth, namely SY-0 in Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, narrowly escaping its enormous bite. Aside from the obvious scaring prospects of Exogorths being giant worms with teeth, their patience and ancient nature make them truly terrifying. Sando Aqua Monster. Imagine if a shark could do a bench press. And that shark was 100 times bigger than normal. That's the Sando Aqua Monster. Native to the lakes and oceans of Naboo, this muscle-bound aquatic creature can reach up to 200 meters in length. While the one we see in Star Wars The Phantom Menace technically saves Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, and Obi-Wan during their deep-sea dive, it's undoubtedly a major force to be reckoned with. There's always a bigger fish, and this is it. Rachna. When Niku Vozo adopts a young Rachna in Star Wars Resistance, it's anything but scary. Niku names his new friend Bebo, and he's actually very cute and cuddly. But when Bebo's mother appears, we're treated to a massive sea beast that rivals the size of the Colossus platform. With 4 eyes, 6 tentacles, and a lot of power, it's probably smart to stay on this creature's good side. There were small things that were good about that show. Fan favorite, the Wampa. Found in the frigid temperatures, the Wampa is a tall and powerful humanoid, being, covered in white fur and sporting horns, teeth, and sharp claws. The Wampa we meet in The Empire Strikes Back puts Luke Skywalker through some significant ordeals, and the young Jedi barely survives the encounter. You only have to take one look at a Wampa's imposing figure to get the idea of how scary the creature can be, and unlike Luke, most who meet one won't have a nifty lightsaber on hand. Mynock! While Han Solo easily dispatches a Mynock with the Millennium Falcon crew, encounters them inside an Exogorth, the true scariness of this creature comes from its swarming nature and parasitic face. Mynocks love to chew on power cables, and any ship that misfortunes across a swarm of these bat-like creatures face the risk of being stranded. In a dangerous galaxy, this can spell disaster for any crew. Note the Mynock Leia jump scare is maybe the best in all of Star Wars. The Krayt Dragon. A true force of nature, it takes the combined efforts of Din Djarin, Cobb Vanth, a group of Tuskens, and the citizens of Mos Pelgo to fell the Krayt Dragon that appears in the Mandalorian episode, Chapter 9, The Marshal. This species of serpentine dragon burrows beneath the surface and generates enough force for surrounding areas to experience ground quakes. It's not a creature to take lightly. Did we mention that it can spit acid? The Acklay. First seen in Star Wars Attack of the Clones, the Acklay is a mean-looking praying mantis-like animal with powerful, sharp legs. While all the execution beasts used on Geonosis were formidable in their own right, we don't envy Obi-Wan for having to go against this one, and it's hard to forget the Acklay's chilling screeches. All right, I thought there was going to be like 10. I didn't know there was going to be this many. The Sarlacc, so I'm not going to read each of the paragraphs for each of these. Sarlacc's a great one. Dianoga. There's actually, from a certain point of view, story about this creature, and it's force sensitive. Yeah, the Rancor! I love the Rancor. The Suma Verminoth. That was great from Solo. The Kuohun. Oh, Kohun. I don't know. Geonosian Brainworm. Definitely terrifying. The Zillo Beast. Rathtars. Yeah. I actually like the Rathtars. I know people complained about them. I thought these were great too. The Ice Spiders. Super awesome looking. The Fear Knock. I don't remember the Fear Knocks. Rishi Eel. I think I remember the Rishi Eel. Vexus. That's a cool looking creature. And the Erling. Nice. All right. So do you have a favorite Star Wars monster? Was it not shown in this list? I always loved, go back to Death Troopers. Zombies, I think, are a great monster for Star Wars. based in Red Harvest slash Death Troopers. And then, what's some other good ones? The Risen, Dathomir Witches were great monsters. I thought those were really scary and awesome. I'm not sure what else, but yeah, awesome, creepy Star Wars creatures. You gotta love them. And the artists who originally conceptualized them and the amazing, talented artists who then craft them. I mean, you just can't get much better than the Star Wars monsters. They're so amazing. Unless we're talking about aliens. Like Alien franchise, Alien, the Xenomorph. Those are pretty damn dope too. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of HoloNet News. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and sharing your time with me. Let me know what you think of all these stories and the different series or novels that are coming out. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and comment below with your thoughts and subscribe so you'll catch the next episode where we'll explore more Star Wars news. You can always support this YouTube channel by becoming a member or a Patreon patron. Links are in the description below. Thank you to creator patron Aaron Hardy and developer patron Chris Androu. Thanks for watching. Until next time, my fellow scruffy looking Nerf herders, may the Force be with you.